All right, we are live, and so let's go ahead and call the meeting to order at 7:02 p.m. Thanks for joining, everyone. Uh, Jay is not going to be able to join us this evening, and I don't know whether we're going to have, given that, I don't know whether we'll need up the entire time, but that's perfectly fine. Let's start by reviewing the previous meeting's minutes. Let me pull those up. As always, Larry, thanks for all of your work there.
Two minor corrections. Item 4 lists me instead of Angela, which is incorrect. And within that item, the website team includes both Jason and Angela, as well as members from town departments.
I actually think on item 4, it's supposed to say Jay had an initial meeting with Civic Plus.
Okay, so at the beginning,
Either way,
that should, oh, so it's Jay
Jay, Yeah.
said that he had a meeting with Civic Plus. So change Joe to Jay.
Yep.
Was there another change in that paragraph? And Joe, you said you had a second change.
the website team includes a member from each town department, Jason and Angela.
Okay, the website team includes a member from each department, and each department, and Angela.
yes.
Jay, I think Jay's already included in each department, so.
Actually, I'd like to make some additions to that section on the new website.
Okay, go ahead.
I raised a number of questions about, what the list of objectives were that we were going to meet with this new website. I also asked to see the conversion plan, which I don't think I've received yet. And I raised some questions about the conversion of only 3 years worth of committee history. I don't, there's a lot of committees, incredibly important committees that were dissolved several years ago that are very important if people want to go back and look at the history. And there's 8 or 10 different dissolved committees that are currently on the website. And, I guess my understanding is that those will be thrown away. They're older than 3 years, but they're very important. And I have some additional questions I'll raise tonight.
Okay.
Okay, so I have 3. Let me just outline the changes we've talked about so far. So that first area, change Joe to Jay. Website consists of a member of each town department plus Angela, and then Will requested 3 things. Discuss 3 key things we want is requested a list of objectives, conversion plan, basically implementation plan, and then there's a discussion of the 3-year limitation for document conversion.
Okay, so can I display the changes that I've made so that we can agree on the content?
Sure. Yep.
Sure.
1 second. Let me get you a presenting role. Okay.
Okay, so it was this section here. Is it big enough?
A little bit bigger would be great.
Let's see. Oops. Nope. Just have to zoom in.
That's good.
Okay, so I changed Joe to Jay.
Yep.
I said, and Angela here. And I added a sentence here.
Let's see here. There are three things. Requested a list of the objectives
List.
for the conversion. Will asked to receive a list of the objectives for the conversion plan, and also question the conversion of only 3 years. Yep.
When we say conversion plan, so are you talking specifically about data migration plan? We did send out a couple of documents after the last meeting. We sent out a high-level work breakdown structure from Civic Plus, and then we sent out the initial design that they've submitted, and I shared the feedback that I had sent to Jay about that design. I don't believe that I got any additional feedback that folks wanted to share, but are we looking for something more around just the data migration plan?
If it's okay, let's delay this
let's-
conversation to the
Yeah,
meeting.
let's do
Right
that.
now, we're just talking about correcting the
Right. So-
notes. So.
I updated this sentence now. We'll ask to see a list of objectives for the new website, the conversion plan, and also question the conversion of only 3 years of content.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other?
There was one minor typo on section 6, bullet 3. Jay indicated that he doesn't have the funding to do that for that.
Oh.
It's just a wording thing, yeah.
Sounds correct to me. Do that for that purpose.
I think for all values of that, he indicated that he didn't have the funding, to
to
move
do
the
that,
cloud.
period.
to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, to do that.
So that was here, didn't have the funding to do that. Okay. Any other comments? Okay.
Looks good. Okay, so let's. I assume we have to do a vote on the amendments first, and then let's just vote as amended. So I move that we accept the meeting minutes from our last meeting with those amendments, which are around changing the Joe to J, changing that the website team has a member from each town department plus Angela, and then add a section on Will's comments in the last meetings regarding regarding the website structure, which is he requested a list of objectives, a conversion plan or migration plan, and then question the limitation of 3 years for document conversion.
Seconded.
Okay, Joe seconded it. All right, let's go around the room. Angela?
Yes.
Joe?
Aye.
Joe?
Yes.
Okay, and Larry?
I
Okay, and likewise, aye. So, unanimous. Thank you, Larry, for putting that together. All right, let's move on in the agenda. First, start about town meeting preparation. Do you want to cover that, Angela?
Sure.
Flyer and then presentation.
Yes. So can I screen share, Matt?
Yes. Yep. You have permission. Yep.
Let me start with the update. So I just sent this out right before the meeting. We have a little bit longer presentation, but we've just cut it down for brevity and sake of time. So it's 3 simple slides, basically one or 2 sentences on who is the MTC, what is the MTC, and then just a quick refresher on some of our core goals for the 5-year technology strategy. And most of the focus is on the key accomplishments for the year. So I basically went back through all of our minutes. I looked at all of the major things that we had done over the past year. and I grouped them into annual reviews that we do, operational support, and then project support. If there isn't, I mean, we're not going to go through these line by line. We're just going to show it at the beginning of town meeting. So, if anybody does have anything they want to be added, we certainly can do this, but I have to get it submitted to the town moderator and some printouts. So I'll have to do that between now and Saturday. So if folks do have any feedback, if they could send it by the end of the day tomorrow, that would be really helpful. And then, absolutely with the pictures, if folks want to sub in different pictures for the ones that are here, just send those over to me and I can do that quite easily. Any comments or suggestions for the presentation?
Let's quickly review like slides 3 and 4, if you don't mind. So slide 3 is the 5-year town strategy.
It's basically just the guiding principles.
Yeah. Okay.
But we will have the brochure that we made that goes a little bit more in depth. So people will be able to pick that up at the front table as they're coming in.
Great. Any comments on this slide? Anybody?
When did you need feedback by, Angela?
Tomorrow, end of day, please.
Okay, my swapping to slide 4 looks good. So project support, I think my only question is, by putting them down on the project, does that mean the project are completed, or it just means they're underway in some way? Like, for example, electronic permit for DPW, that's more of an investigation phase.
I mean, my intention was that we had either, discussed it, provided input, provided some type of some type of overview. Should I change that to project review, or is that a better word for that?
I'm wondering if the word project is there a better word than project? And I don't know. Initiative. Yeah. Yeah. The problem with project is it almost infers that it's definitely being done, and I don't want to raise any alarms with people saying, "What? It's a project? It's guaranteed." So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Any other comments?
Is it worth? I mean, a lot of this is embedded in the other items, but should we have a heading that focuses on the sort of important areas that we push on as a committee? Our focus areas, so to speak. We push on security issues. We push on moving town applications into the cloud. There are 2, 3, 4 things that we as a committee deal with almost monthly, and just noting. Okay.
Yes. The question is, can we? Are those sort of synonymous with our guiding principles?
Yep, guiding principles. Yeah, I missed first approach.
Sorry if I'm switching back and forth. I do mention security work here as part of the operational support. I don't know if we want to expand on that somehow.
Well, it might be worth putting it also as a guiding principle.
I think it is. Isn't it?
It is. Yep. Evaluate all technology options for data privacy and security.
Yeah. I'm going back and forth between my minutes and the slides. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Any other thoughts or comments from anyone?
Then we will also, let me just make sure I shared everything. We'll also be sharing the Wi-Fi guide. And Larry, I think you had made a suggestion last time, and I looked in my notes and I couldn't find it. I added the QR codes here for the
Mhm.
cell phone towers. But was there one other thing that you said that you thought we should add?
I think there was, but I'd have to look back at the video. Oh, yeah. I suggested we consider adding links to the appropriate iPhone and Android
That's right.
Yeah,
location
Wi-Fi calling.
on Wi-Fi calling.
iPhone
that's
and
good.
Android. Sorry, say it one more time.
Wi-Fi calling to
Yeah,
enable Wi-Fi calling.
fact pages or info pages or
Okay.
whatever for iPhone and for Android on Wi-Fi calling where it's appropriate and how to do it.
Okay, I'll make that edit as well before we go to print. But
One other suggestion is that the problem solving, you might consider prioritization or reordering the things on the right. So, for example, I would I would prioritize Wi-Fi calling over going outside or moving location in your house. Trying a femtocell and microcell, that should be lower, and it already is. So, I mean, sort of adjusting the order, in terms of problem solving. So if people perceive this as being a step by step, let's try this thing at the top first.
Okay.
What should they try?
I can look at that again and try to reorder them.
Can you send me your latest copy so I can include them as part of the minutes?
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
So that is also what we will have on the table. And then the last piece is the strategy brochure that I think folks have seen from earlier meetings, and there weren't substantial changes on this. It's the same brochure that we had before.
So once again, if anybody on the committee wants their pictures updated, feel
Redone,
free to
yes.
feel free to send Angela those pictures. And I assume, Angela, when you do the presentation, are you okay doing the presentation at town meeting?
Yeah.
Sharing those?
Yeah,
Awesome,
sure.
thank you. When you do it, it may be good to call out to those two things we have on the tables, just in case somebody missed them.
Yes. Okay. Make note of that. Okay.
Great.
And I think those are all the things that we have for town meeting.
Yes. One other thing we need to talk about, the articles, but yeah, that's all the sort of preparation work from the articles. So yeah, thank you, Angela, for putting all that together.
Sure.
Yeah, should be good. Let's move on to technology-related warrants. I have two things on the agenda for tonight. One is public safety radios, and the second is the tech-related emergency comm centers. Let's get the easy one out of the way. The tech-related emergency comm center. There is, from my understanding, various proposals that the town might consider entering into, either a regional dispatch center that is located in Foxborough, and most recently there's a discussion to enter in a regional dispatch center in Westborough. And I have not been yet reached out to learn more about the technology, but these are still nothing's going to be really voted. There's no voting that's going to be done in town meeting that would guarantee we move forward with emergency comm center joining a district or a regional emergency comms dispatch center. There are a couple of articles that are attempting to block moving to a regional dispatch center. And I don't think either one of those really have anything to do with technology per se. So all I say is I think we have more time to continue looking at it. So I'm going to try to get the contact information of, either people in Foxborough or the people that are planning things out in Westboro, so we can, in our next MTC meeting, we can start looking into some of the technology. So all I'll say is I don't think there's much to really discuss there. Public safety radios. I reached out to Chief Newell and Chief Achilles to see if they would be able to join us this evening. Chief Achilles was on vacation. Chief Newell was not available this evening, but I was able to talk to both of them. They I started with Chief Achilles. I had about a good 30-minute conversation with him when he was available to learn more about the initiative. And as part of that, let me pull up my own notes for that conversation. One of the things I did is I went back through town meeting articles, the warrant articles over the past, several years. And so, for example, in 2018, there was a warrant article for $165,000 to replace the DPW radios. And it was to replace the radios that include installing a repeater and base station and the actual radios of the DPW, and make them that would be compatible with the police and fire systems. And that was done in 2018. 2019, there was a replacement, if people recall, but there was a copper pair wire that was leased from Verizon, that was a local loop going from public safety building to the previous public safety building, going up to Overlook Road. And the carrier in that time wanted to end of life copper, and basically saying they wanted to start charging us more for fiber. And so at that time we supported, and there's an article in 2019 to get a private fiber loop installed between the new public safety building and the Overlook Road radio repeater. Also in 2019, the repeaters themselves and base stations were replaced. They were 15 years old at the time, and so for $70,000 they were replaced. In June of 2020, there was funds that were allocated for a new site. I think actually it was funds to look for, just do a survey, sort of a town radio environment map, to survey and find a good site for a new repeater. And I believe that survey was conducted and they opted not to create a new repeater site. Basically, since going digital, that has helped out with the repeaters. In May 2022, so a year ago, Fire purchased 6 new radios, 6 new portable radios for Fire. And they also did that in conjunction, I think, with some ARPA funds. And these are like tri-band radios, etc. So so that's what's happened in history. And now we're on to the current town meeting article number 8, which is to see if the town will allocate roughly $500,000, $488,000, for basically replacing all the handsets in police and fire. And that's basically a total of 28 units for fire and 24 units for the police department. This budget is they would, a year ago they purchased six new ones, but they basically want to take those and pull them back into sort of a spare capacity. And apparently the fire department's radios are end of life. They've been using them for 7 or 8 years, something like 8 years. And the police departments have been using 7 years, and next year they would be up for renewal. But the police and fire have gotten together and said, look, if we can buy all these now, we can get a discount off of it, the new units, and they would be much more interchangeable. Though another thing that the fire chief mentioned is that the state standards for fire department radios have gone up, and they're requiring more things, and that's why these radios are costing more and more. It's like every year apparently they've been going up. For example, the state standards now have either recommendations or requirements that the radio that the users be able to operate the radio with gloves on. So if you're in a burning structure, you shouldn't have to pull off your glove to be able to operate your radio. That's sort of common sense, and so the sort of the usability and of course the IP68 or whatever structure, so they are completely waterproof. I'm sure temperature proof up to a certain level, ruggedized, etc. That's why it makes these things so costly.
So Matt, I'm sorry, you said that Fire bought 6 new portable radios in 2022. Do
Correct.
those not meet the new state regulations?
I don't know if they meet those state regulations or not. They do intend to keep those in circulation, but more as spares moving forward. And there's open questions. So the ones that were bought in 2022 are Motorola, basically tri-band. They actually have they have multiple band support. The model is APX 8000.
Do we know how much those were?
Well, so the Chief Achilles mentioned that radios are roughly about $7,000 or $8,000 a piece. But the article, I asked him about that because the article from last year was for $14,000 for 6 radios. So you divide that out, it's $2,300 a piece. He mentioned that the reason why that the article was that level is because they were able to use ARPA funds or some other grant, etc., to offset the cost. That's why they were so cheap last year.
Now, are all the new radios compatible with the existing base stations and repeaters?
Yes, they are, and the statewide frequencies, etc. Also, another thing to note is they haven't finalized exactly what radios they're going to be using, like exactly which vendor and model. They are planning to the default, like the go-to default, is Motorola, but there is a person, sort of a radio person from fire and radio person from police, that will be working together to do an evaluation of an altered vendor, specifically Kenwood. So before they actually make the final decision of actually using the funds, they will be evaluating Kenwood as well. Kenwood, I think, is possibly slightly less expensive, but they just want to make sure it meets the needs. Joe, do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, just wondering if in this conversation, if there was I realized they hadn't settled on a vendor, but for the budget, are they expecting is there a target lifespan? You were talking about some of these being EOL in like 8 years. Is it a similar window, or is it unknown at this point?
Yeah, he said that from what he said, that the radios themselves are lifespan about 8 years. Yeah. Another thing he mentioned is that they've gone through a few different models or cost models to try to optimize this. In the olden days, now we say olden days is like 10, 20 years ago. Supposedly they were just generic analog radios, and they would leave the radios on particular positions in the truck. So they would be static, or they'd be shared. Everybody shares the same radio, and you'd have a couple of them per truck. And when you get on the truck, you just use them. Nowadays, they're all digital, and each radio has, a radio ID and a user ID. So it literally transmits as you transmit, and on your transmit, you can identify exactly who's the one transmitting as part of the digital signal. And that's partially important, especially as you add, be able to track individuals who's saying what. He also mentioned that these new radios have the ability, they haven't decided whether to use it, but they have the ability to, at least to start linking up to other devices. So for example, the Chief Achilles in Fire mentioned that one of the things that they have considered or will consider in the future is linking their air packs, I guess their breathing apparatus, etc., and the monitoring of the breathing apparatus to the digital radios so that they can, as well as the digital radios have built-in GPS. And it's not just GPS, but it's also I can't remember the Russian version of GPS. There's two different satellite systems, and lots of radios now support both. So it gives you higher fidelity of your location information. All to say is that given that they've decided for both usability and cost nowadays, it's actually best just to have literally allocate a radio per firefighter and not share. And that opens the window to these more advanced use cases, which I'm not doing yet, but they're considering them, of transmitting individual IDs, hooking up to be able to track and firefighters' locations. They haven't yet worked out the indoor issue and elevation, but I guess it's something we worked on. And then tracking the air packs. I think that's what they're called, the breathing apparatus digitally. So that's another reason why these things are so expensive, is because they do support, more advanced connections like that.
Was there any option to leverage ARPA funding, since we did just fund a number of things through ARPA? Was that considered or looked at, or this most recent state budget call for budget line items that Mark Purple was asking about?
That's a great question. I would assume that because in the past they have done some ARPA funding, they had considered that, but I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Something I can definitely check on for next meeting. And again, what this is doing, the article is basically allocating the funds, appropriating the funds. It doesn't necessarily mean that the fire department has to use all of those funds. So I'm sure we could ask if, if there are.
Is it its own article, Matt, or is it just being submitted as part of their budget?
It's its own article. Article 8.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? May or may not be able to answer. I'd love to get poll this committee for completeness. I think it's good we maintain a habit of opining on things technology related, so that if there are any questions from citizens, have we reviewed this, we can give our opinion. So, are there any other questions before we do that poll and support or oppose for this article? Okay.
I did have one question, not just related to something that you said earlier. When you were going through the history, you said there was an article in 2018 to spend money on new radios. How much?
It was Department of Public Works specifically, and that was 165,000, and it was both the radios.
That was for DPW?
Exclusively DPW.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, not public safety.
Not public safety. I may have, did I misspeak? I may have misspoken, but yeah, 2018 is exclusively DPW.
Okay, got it.
And it was 165,000, and it was replace all of the DPW radios, install a repeater and a base station at the DPW, and the justification at the time was that the DPW's radios were not compatible with fire and police systems anymore, and they wanted to upgrade to something that would, support fire and police.
I'm actually on April 3rd, I think, I'm going on a field trip with the senior center to look at the regional dispatching site.
Nice. Nice. Which one is this? The Foxborough one? That's up.
Yeah, so yeah,
Awesome. Please.
I have to supply a picture for that. As a matter of fact.
Once you supply the picture, give it to Angela as well, and let us know how it is. Love to hear what your thoughts are. Joe, question. Sorry, go ahead. Anything else, Will?
Not on that, no.
Okay.
Oh,
Joe,
just
question or comment?
yeah, just to follow up on that 2018. Does that mean we're setting ourselves up for DPW appropriation in the not too distant future if it was specifically for compatibility? Now that we're looking at a different system, or do we believe that because the updated radios are all going to be compatible with the existing base stations and repeaters, that that's not going to be an issue?
I think it's the latter. Yeah, we expect that they all support digital, and yeah. And I did ask him how it's been going since they have moved to digital, and he says he hasn't heard any issues. I mean, they don't do tons of coordination work with DPW public safety, but when there is coordination, he hasn't heard any issues or any problems.
But it did improve or reduce the number of dead spots in town, right? That was
Yes,
time.
Yes, that's right. Moving to digital itself improved the dead spots. Now, of course, the actual transmit power, from my understanding, is the same, but it's just simply moving to digital over analog. And I've seen that personally when I've done a comparison test, handheld to handheld, analog versus digital. I can definitely get significantly more range with digital because of the built-in error correction and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. So I'd like to poll around the room what our thoughts are on this article, in favor or opposed. Joe?
Lean in favor.
Okay, Angela?
In favor, but I'd love to see if there could be funding via ARPA or a different non-tax funding base.
Yep. Okay, Larry?
This was requested by the fire and safety people, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Larry?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the article. I mean, it's a lot of money, but I'm actually, I mean, one of the things that pushes me in favor is sort of the, I guess I'll call it the telemetry aspects that you discussed, being able to monitor and report, basically squawk each individual, monitor and report issues about their air supply, things like that. I think that's an important improvement.
Yeah, and to be clear, these radios themselves, by buying the radios won't give them that necessarily right out of the box, meaning they would be future upgrade. I think GPS
Next year
is
there'll be a warrant article to buy new protective suits that include support for the telemetry.
That's true. He actually, Chief Achilles said their air packs are getting close to the end of life, and they're considering buying ones that have Bluetooth in them that talk
Right.
Bluetooth to the
I mean,
radio.
one would hope that they'll also be able to monitor things like vital signs to determine when somebody's in distress. As long as they're going that far, it seems like an obvious thing to be able to want to do.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, Will, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, one thing is, I mean, I'll vote in favor, but only if it's clear that the fire and safety people will be there to defend this. I remember that back in 2020 at the open air annual town meeting during the good old days of COVID, that there was quite a brouhaha about buying or putting in an order for a new fire truck. And it came to a vote. I think it was fairly close, or not, maybe not, but there were a lot of people speaking against it at that time. I imagine this is going to draw some fire as well.
Because the
But
ticket size,
otherwise,
yeah.
I approve. I agree.
Yeah, I'm sure that my understanding, they should have somebody there to support this. All right, and likewise, I support this. I'm sort of likewise with Angela. It's a big ticket that and I sort of told this to Chief Achilles, um, I feel like some technology vendors nowadays are just ratcheting up prices just to ratchet up prices. I have a very good ruggedized 10 watts tri-band radio, IP67, completely waterproof, digital, has my ID, etc. in it. You can link to it with Bluetooth. It has GPS built in, and I got it for $250. So why are these $8,000? Maybe, I mean, I haven't really been in the market, but
Is
I
it
just
is
kind
it
of,
Chinese made?
it is Chinese made. Yes.
Yeah, well, you know that the Biden administration and I think a lot of Congress is
Yeah.
looking to stop sending a lot of advanced chips that can be used for military purposes. And what you just described would be a perfect military radio on the cheap. No, I'm dead
Yeah.
serious
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
this is it's a major embargo that's been put down in terms of selling them the most advanced chips and also selling them the gear to make their own chips.
True. Yeah. Very true. Yeah. So that's probably why. So, okay. Sounds good. Thank you, everyone. Um, let's go ahead and move on the agenda. Town website update. Um, Angela, do you have any? I haven't heard anything on it. Have you heard anything?
Well, after the last meeting, I did sit down with Jay, and he and I discussed components of the website. I got the work breakdown structure, which I shared out with the committee, and the design that they've submitted as the preliminary template, which was also shared. Jay's supposed to be setting up, I think, a second meeting coming up, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And I think that's basically where we are right now. I don't know if there was any feedback from anyone on the WBS or the template.
Well, I mean, I just sent out a list of questions that that I would like to ask, but I don't want to take up a lot of time. So I sent them out as an email message to everybody, and I can just very briefly go over them, just sort of a headline form, and then Larry's got the type messages all of you do.
Sure. Let's go over those.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Like I say, I don't think there's. We'll see how much we can actually answer without Jay
I
being here. But
I don't. I mean, I'm not sure we really need to answer them tonight, but these would be questions that I have. One is just, what is the cost of what we're doing this year, and then the ongoing extra cost that we'll be paying on the, for the new software. Second one would just be the type of conversion. Is this flash cut? Are we going to run in parallel? Third thing would be there's lots and lots of documents in the current content management system that are not necessarily directly linked to web pages. And I guess I would be curious as to what's going to happen to those. One thing in particular, well, we'll get to it. But next thing would be dissolve committees. Next thing would be, committee member involvement. Is there going to be, I apologize for not looking at the work breakdown structure, but our committee member is going to be asked to take a look at their converted sites and make any type of approval. I think that's important. And the reason I think it's important is that some of these committees spend quite a bit of time adding extra content to their sites, and they want to be telling a story to the community of what they're doing. And so I think they're very important people. I think the people who serve on these committees, myself excluded, are some of the most important people in Southborough because they volunteer their time. And so I think we should ask them. There's an issue about documents discussed. I requested some agendas and minutes from 2000 to essentially 2015 about this conservation committee, and was very impressed. The clerk got those to me very, very quickly, but the only thing that was included were agendas and minutes. And if you look at certainly at any of the minutes that I do, I always have documents discussed, and the minutes themselves are actually attached to a page that then has links to the documents discussed, which I turn in when I turn in my minutes. And I'm I don't know if those pages are going to be converted, into beyond 3-year deadline. And if they're not, those documents provide very important context to what was discussed, and they really make the minutes come alive. Couple questions on authoring tool, who's going to do the training and what the costs are going to be. And then my recollection is that we have never really formally voted on this upgrade. I mean, if that's not true, that's okay, fine. And please direct me as to what meeting we did. But with one exception, I've attended every meeting, and I don't recall that we actually had a formal motion on that. And then the last one would be that there was some discussion about rights management. So in other words, under the new system, committee members will be asked or will be allowed to determine who can publish to their sites. And obviously that's going to require some training. And so just, when would they get that training? So those are just the questions I have. And, I typed them out so that we don't have to spend a lot of time on them. If there's any answers that you have, great. But, once again, these are the questions that I would raise.
Will, can I use your email as?
Yes, you may. Absolutely. That's why I sent it to you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Be a document discussed, I guess.
I think the easiest thing to do would be to, sit down with Jay and the vendor and basically go through the questions one by one, have them supply the proposed answer, and then kind of bring that back together, or, just have a separate side meeting with the vendor to kind of talk through the more detailed view. I mean, I understand that the WBS was somewhat high level. So if there's detailed questions about exactly how data migration is going to work and stuff like that, I think we would probably have to sit down with the vendor directly. I'm happy to talk to Jason about getting that set up and finding a time to do that.
I mean, that would be great. I guess I think to me, the most important questions here have to do with running this past committee members. Was your site converted correctly? Does your site need to have more than 3 years of minutes to adequately show people what you've been doing? I think the dissolved committee thing is important as well, simply because some of the biggest expenditures that we've made in this town, like the public safety building, that dissolved committee is more than 3 years old at this point. So
yeah, I guess,
I would wonder, I would think that people may want to go back and take a look at that.
I guess three and 4 on Will's list, I see as a sort of single item that I guess would raise a red flag or concern for me. I mean, given the cost of storage these days, we shouldn't be throwing anything out. I mean, we should have an archive of some sort. It doesn't have to be directly available or directly accessible, or maybe it's directly accessible but not easily accessible on the website. But
I think there was a difference between what was moving into the new template versus what was like, I don't know that they're just throwing away stuff. I think it's just really what's being ported over into this new template and new design, and then what's essentially going to be archived but would be available for access. Just it's not going to be made all pretty and nice and put into the new template.
And I have no problem with that at all. I'm not arguing for making everything pretty. I'm arguing for not throwing away history. I think it's important that we should be able to get back to every document that we at least have. We might not have every document we'd like to have, but the ones we do have, we should make sure are somewhere available or somehow.
Well, I would say I have one data point here, and that is that the Public Accessibility Committee used to be called the ADA Committee, and for some reason the ADA Committee's website, instead of being marked as dissolved and kept online, has been deleted. It was taken offline, and I mean, as far as I can tell, the only thing left are the agendas and minutes in the current content management system. But for instance, the pages that I had or that had been created about the documents that were discussed at various meetings are nowhere to be seen as far as I can tell in doing searches. Now, the current search capability for the current content management system is beyond horrible. I mean, it actually doesn't even function correctly when you try and use the date function, you know, before or after, whatever that means. I have no idea, but it doesn't seem to work. But you know, what I would say is that it's right now there's a, you know, there are ways to look at the context of meetings that I think you know, unfortunately could be lost, even if the agendas and minutes are indeed kept. And then the other point that I would just make is that you know, when it comes to agendas and minutes, one committee chair said, well, I'll go and create my own pages and I will save all of the history of agendas and minutes and documents discussed. And you know, that's fine. And you know, if she wants to do that, that's great, except that I have a feeling that Jim Higgerty would rightfully object to that, because it is his job to be the keeper of agendas and committees, I mean, agendas and minutes. And an agenda and a minute posted on the town website cannot really be posted by anybody else. And you can't have parallel copies hanging out there, you know, because Jim Higgerty is the one who's responsible for the official history, right? So, you know, there's issues that come into it like that.
Yep, that makes sense. So yeah, Angela, I like your idea of scheduling a time to meet with Jay and the vendor and reconciling the plan against these questions.
Well, you know, the other thing is, if we really are up against a deadline of May, that gives us, let's say, 10 weeks, 50 business days or something, or less. And
was there, just from my understanding, was there a deadline in May, or was that simply an objective?
I think that was a target date for conversion, or for them in the work breakdown structure.
right.
Yeah.
And
So
I have a feeling that as far as Civic Plus is concerned, they would say that's a deadline, right? They don't want to have their people hanging out and continuing to work on a lengthy basis.
Well, the contract was executed, if I recall correctly, so that would have the terms, and it probably does have an end of project.
And hopefully it has a number of dollars in it.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
We went through those a number of meetings ago when we were signing.
Yeah, and then there were extra dollars just in case we need additional supports.
Yeah.
And I think
Yep, I
there
remember
is
that discussion. I think that was the meeting we had over in the PSP that day, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so I think so yeah, most of these questions can be answered by the vendor, and you know, I think we do have a copy of what was paid. So
okay.
for the question number 1, is that correct?
Was a copy of the contract distributed, or is that something that's not distributable?
I might have to go back and dig through our
Okay.
old meeting stuff, because I don't have it right in front of me right now.
Okay.
We did discuss in specific numbers in previous meetings.
The contract itself was not reviewed at any meeting, because I would have attached it to some minutes if it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing it attached to any minutes. I only, as I said, I missed one. Unfortunately, it happened to be that particular meeting.
Yep. Okay. So the only one we can really address ourselves is number 9. Is that correct? Have we voted on an upgrade? Is the question is, did the MTC ever vote on spending ARPA funds to make this upgrade?
Did we have a formal motion and a vote?
I don't recall if we did or not.
I don't either.
Should we? You're implying we should have a vote?
Well,
a little late, isn't it?
I think that you know, apart from, let's say, the actual wording in the bylaw, I think that, you know, our purpose for this committee is to look at major expenditures, and this is a large expenditure, and also it's going to have a major effect on the town. And so I think we should have. Now, whether or not that's specifically called out in the bylaw, I don't know, but I don't think that matters.
No, I think you're right. You're completely right, Will. That's our job, is to review those and to
But
vote
it's
on
not that we
expenditures.
didn't review it. I mean, we talked about this town survey. We talked about what we were presenting to ARPA. You know, we submitted and circulated all of the documents that went to ARPA. You know, if anyone had an issue with us, you know, suggesting that we review the website or that we upgrade the website, I would have expected that it would have come out then that, you know, someone would have said, hey, we either shouldn't submit this to ARPA, or, you know, there's a disagreement about submitting it to ARPA. I mean, that was
Yeah, the
Well,
bylaws says,
ago.
the
I
bylaws,
had-
the
I
bylaws
had
said,
no,
sorry, let me finish. The bylaws says that we should review. It doesn't say we need to vote on everything. It simply says that we should review. So, and I do agree with Angela that we've discussed this many times. If you would have preferred, Will, that we had formally voted on this, you know,
I would have preferred that, but you know, there are two different steps here. One step was to go after ARPA funds, which was really just to create a placeholder, and I was actually in agreement with that. That's fine. But the next step was the signing of the contract, and that was, you know, put the town money on the line. And that one, I definitely think we should have voted to either say yay or nay, we agree on that. And I think it would be hard to explain to the town why we didn't.
I mean, we initially had a quote from an outside vendor that was much more expensive than Civic Plus. And I remember there was, you know, considerable discussion about, you know, people feeling like we should engage with Civic Plus. And I believe Mr. Litt was on one of the meetings, and there was a lot of talk about, you know, we're already with Civic Plus. It's going to be a much easier transition. They're going to have, you know, essentially a lot more updates that we can take advantage of it. So I think that's what initially led us down the road with Civic Plus at that point. And then they worked with Jay to get the proposal submitted. We did circulate the proposal that I think I sent that out a couple of times, the proposal that Civic Plus gave us. And from that proposal, that's when I believe that Jay ended up moving forward, because the pricing was running out and Select Board approved that they should go forward. So they did not miss out on the timing deadline for getting the cost that was on the current contract.
Okay, so you're saying the Select Board basically moved ahead with knowing that that we had not voted on this.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like they thought that we were very supportive of it, because we had been talking about it, and we were supporting Jay in the efforts to revise the website. So I don't want to misspeak and say that, you know, the Select Board felt there was a formal vote or anything like that, but I do believe that they, you know, they had the impression that we were supportive of it.
Yeah.
Well, that's, you know,
okay.
That's interesting.
Okay, I don't want to talk about what's happened in the past. Maybe mistakes were made. I would request any of the committee members here, anybody on the committee, if you feel strongly that we should have a vote on something during a meeting while we're talking about it as part of the process, please let me know, and we'll make sure. Moving forward, what should we do? Should we go and have a vote right now? Let's have a vote.
Actually, I'll make a motion.
Okay, great, please.
And my motion would be that we do not support the conversion until these questions have been answered, and that you know, people in committees and such are satisfied that they know what this conversion is going to look like and what's going to be preserved.
Are there any? So let me write down that motion. Actually, Larry, do you have the language for that motion?
No, I was going to ask him to repeat it one more time so I could.
I move that we ask that the conversion be delayed until we have answers to these questions, and that committee members and other interested parties are aware of what this conversion is going to entail and what their role will be, if any, and how much will be converted, etc.
Okay, so that's, do you have that, Larry, that language?
So move that the conversion be delayed until we have answers to the questions, and that we and relevant parties have, what was the last part? It was just a lot of
Relevant parties such as committee members are aware of what their part will be in the conversion, if any, and know what what is going to be converted and what's not going to be converted.
I have a point of order. I mean, we're contractually bound to Civic Plus for the terms of the agreement that was signed. I don't know that we can, in effect, delay if we've already signed the contract. I mean, I think you could make a motion that says something like, the MTC has concerns, or the MTC is voicing concern, to obtain more detail. But I don't know if we can actually vote on something that we're already contractually bound to.
We're not the final word on this, and so I would let the motion stand as it is. It would really be up to the board of selectmen, the select board, to actually take any action. You're right, but in terms of the opinion of the MTC, that's what I would like to move and see and get that voted on.
Okay, the point of order, though, is true. The question is, what is there anything the select board could do?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to speak for the select board. I'm not going to speak for the town lawyers. But I think that's their issue. I mean, that's their problem.
Okay.
Not ours.
Okay, so I think this is just a vote on whether MTC supports moving forward or not, whether or not anybody in town actually has any influence over that, including the select board. That's simply what Will's asking for a vote for. So any discussion on before we actually?
Well, do we have a second? I guess would be one question, and then we can have discussion.
Yeah. Good point. We have a second for Will.
I'll second it.
Okay, Larry seconds it. Discussion. I'd like what Angela said about the question is whether we should only be voting on things we actually have control over. I personally feel it's a waste of our time to do things that we don't have control over.
We're not actually, we're not actually doing anything. We're making a recommendation.
Let me finish, and then you can respond if that's okay. I don't believe we have much influence over this. There's very few things. There's certainly certain things we have influence over, and because the train's already moved out, I don't believe we have influence over this. So I don't believe our vote, whether yay or nay, a nay vote would be impeding this. Also, in seeing IT projects run by committee, especially people by large group, when I say committee, I use the broad term committees. Basically, having everybody be content, etc. Far too often it fails. I do think that it is important to get answers to some of these questions. We need to press for that, but I don't think personally don't feel we should. We can delay or should delay a project until everybody is properly appeased and has answers to every one of the questions, etc. That's my personal feeling. Any other comments?
I agree with everything you just said, but on the flip side, Will's questions are pretty uniformly important and straightforward questions that in most cases don't have long involved answers. And it strikes me that having answers to these questions is important for us to be able to support the project. I mean, I probably should know how much this cost, but I don't know how much it cost. Maybe I don't remember from the meeting, or maybe I just didn't hear the number. I don't know, but I don't know how much it's going to cost. I don't know. For example, I brought up 3 and 4. I don't know what's going to happen with documents that are sort of archaic, antique, or old. I have no idea what the plan is for committee members to be trained and for putting up their own content. None of these is necessarily a difficult question, but I believe that for us to be able to support this project with a straight face, we should be able to provide sort of pithy answers to all of them. If somebody asks us, if somebody from the accessibility committee comes up and says, what do we need to do to make sure that we're involved in a new website? Do we know the answer to that right now? I mean, it seems like.
Well, have people read the documentation that was circulated? I mean, there's a lot of answers in those documents.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I'm sorry that people don't remember
Eight
all of that stuff, and I'm
training.
happy to go back and reiterate it, and I'm happy to get, exact answers to these exact questions, but a
And
lot of this is in the documentation.
I should also say that some of these questions were asked in previous meetings, they were answered.
Right.
And I'm
Okay.
sorry that people didn't remember those answers, but they were answered. Like cost per seat for web authoring, new authoring tools? No, there's no cost per seat. Jay said
Okay.
there was no cost per seat. So, yeah.
That's good.
Joe, do you have some comments? Yeah, please.
Yeah, the 100% what Angela said, the March 2nd message of additional website data is the subject. That has the project, the high level WBS, but there's dates. So April, the training sessions are in April. There's customer acceptance that's required for the launch and launch procedures. So the question is it intended to be a hot cut or not? Is to be answered during that session. You may have a strong opinion that should be settled beforehand, but it's already laid out as a time window as to when that's expected.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, when Will was going down his list of questions, I didn't hear sort of the responses that says all of these have been answered or most of these have been answered. And I just, I think that's more important at this point than talking about delaying conversion or anything like that. Is just making sure that the data is available. And if it's available, then that's all I can ask for.
Yeah. I completely agree with you, Larry. I think these are common questions. Like these are questions, and we should strive to get answers to these in the context of what has already been shared with us and has already been answered in existing meetings and the upcoming meetings, these upcoming training sessions, etc. So the general goal of obtaining more information and working collaboratively to ensure that it is done right is good. But I don't see it being collaborative as a committee to say we as a committee, this is my personal feelings, that we as a committee feel like we need to stop everything unless every one of these questions is answered right now. I do think we should work, continue to work to collaborate on getting answers into all these questions. But yeah, Angela, do you have any other comments or thoughts? I'll give you some time.
No. I mean, I think
let me just make a quick comment. This is not an effort to design the new website by committee. All right. These are just questions about how are things going to work, what's going to be converted, what role do other people have, how is this going to be signed off, what the costs are, so these are just general questions. These are not trying to design anything by committee. To tell you the truth, I would say that if it was absolutely certain that all the pages are going to be converted and that we weren't throwing stuff away, I'd be happy. I think those are the major things. As far as cost, I think it's good to know the cost. I don't see any, I mean, if they want to spend extra, fine. It's not really my money in a sense. As far as the date, I think people should know what the date is going to be so that they expect. And as far as the participation, as I said, I think that, the committee members who are the ones who work for this town free of charge and, in my opinion, provide a lot of value. in helping to make this a good place to live. I think that they need to be involved, and I don't see that happening at this particular point. So, as far as what's in our control and what's out of our control, it's really the select board, that would have to make a decision. And it's also going to be the select board that is going to have to explain to people, if they're not happy about what happens with the conversion, if it should not be done in a good fashion. These questions that I'm putting forward are meant to say, look, these are questions that I think will help to smooth the way. And it's not just getting an answer, but it's also actually acting on them. If we're going to involve committee members, we need to act on that and get emails out to people and say, hey, this is coming. This is what's going to happen. Here's what you may or may not like, or here's what you should look at, make your own decision. So that when it does happen, they won't feel like they were blindsided by it.
And I think if we have, feedback on the process or feedback on the WBS or any of that, that's perfectly fine to give to Jay. And I think he's been very open about the feedback that I've provided on the design template on other things. So, let's chat with them, and, we can definitely get the questions answered and engage with the vendor. And I think they'll be able to make you very comfortable with what the process is going to be going forward.
Yes. So I do want to double click on question number 5, committee member involvement. Will committee members be involved in okaying the conversion of their websites? So that the language there is specifically requires a positive confirmation or positive acceptance by committee members. So not just committee leads, but it just says committee members. So we're saying every member of every committee needs to positively accept during the conversion process.
Well, there are a lot of committees. I would say probably 2/3 from what I can see that, they just have the very standard single page and then some pages linked to it that have their agendas and minutes. And the minutes pages have the link to them, the documents discussed at meetings. And, I'm sure that, that the conversion, they'll be happy with it. But there are other committees like the Economic Development Committee, the Trails Committee, the Historical Society, et cetera, who have extensive pages. And, I think that they will be, rather focused on whether or not those are converted the way that they would like to see fit. And
that makes sense. I'm just saying that this particular language doesn't call that out. It says you need, whether it's customized or not, you would like to see that every committee be consulted and it be positively acknowledged and accept their conversion.
I don't, I think I don't see that as unreasonable, to tell you the truth.
No, I'm just going off of what the language is.
I understand. I'm just saying that you're probably not, most of these are going to be pretty automatic, right? But as long as they understand what's going to be converted and what's not going to be converted, some of them are not going to be automatic. And I think that we should, reach out to all committees. Once again, if, this is once again smoothing the way. There's 40 or 50 committees in this town, and these are people who do quite a bit of work on their issues, and I think it'd be nice to recognize that and to consult with them. I don't see that as taking a lot of time.
I agree. I think we're in violent agreement that we should involve as much as possible. But the question is, do we have a hard gate in the conversion process until we receive positive acknowledgement by each and every committee that they have accepting their particular site?
I don't know. I think we should. And I think that if we don't, there's going to be there's probably going to be a number of people who have a lot of heartburn. And
okay.
It seems to me that it's a way for us to shoot ourselves in the foot, or to avoid shooting ourselves in the foot.
I'm not sure that I agree that we need that level of buy-in. I guess my bigger concern is that we ensure that the committees, and by the committees, let's just sort of personify that by the chairperson, the committees buy into the fact that there is a new website, that their information will be converted, and we do it in such a way that we avoid, the past problems of people developing their own websites. I mean, I think we need sufficient buy-in that people don't go off and create new websites for their own committees because they either don't know what's happening or haven't been kept up to date what's happening or don't know how to include content. I mean, that's my bigger fear. I'm not worried about anybody really being slighted here from a personal point of view or committees, being completely, I'm not sure what the right word is there. But my bigger issue is that one of the values of this process in my mind is that we're going to try to pull in all of the committees so that we don't end up with external sites. And if the committees aren't part of the process at some level, then we run that risk. And I think we simply need to ensure that the committees are part of the process sufficiently, and I'm waving my hands there because I don't know what that really means, but sufficiently to ensure that they know what's happening and they know how to proceed with the new website and use it. So that's my concern. I'm not concerned about some committee throwing up their hands and saying, I have no idea what's happening and they haven't talked to me and I'm upset. I don't expect that to happen, but I do expect that people being people will look for the path of least resistance. And if they don't know what's happening, they'll simply go their own way.
Yeah.
Okay, should we move to a vote?
So once again, what's the motion on the table? Could you mind rereading that, Larry?
Move that the conversion be delayed until we have answers to the questions to the questions raised by Will in Doc C, and that we and relevant parties such as committee members are aware of their roles in the conversion.
Okay. And we have a second already. Let's go around the room to vote. Will?
Aye, I vote in favor of my motion, yes.
Okay, great. Angela?
No.
Joe?
No.
Larry?
No.
And myself, no, as well.
But I will make sure that we get the answer to all your questions. So I'll talk to Jay this week and just make sure that we do get them all answered.
Thank you, Angela. Yeah, these are good questions, and in no way want to minimize that. And I fully agree, Larry. Like the more we can involve and get committees, not only I shouldn't say buy-in, but make them aware and get as much of their, make sure they're aware of what's going on and get their input as much as possible.
Yeah, I guess
but it's a happy trade-off, right?
I guess we need to ensure that, I was going to say that rather than saying that they're included in the process, we need to ensure that there's a process that they can be included in. So, I mean, there just needs to be some set of things where it's important to somebody that every committee chair knows A, B, C, D, and E. And, once that's defined, then it can be socialized. But right now, to Will's point, I'm not sure we've actually defined a process that they can be included into.
Yeah, well, I would like to review, the work breakdown structure to see, does it mention anything about that? I think it's incumbent on each of us to make sure that we're aware of what has been shared with us. So, yeah. Okay. Any other comments on the website? If not, let's go ahead and move on in the agenda. We don't have Jay here. I know, Joe, you're still working on collaborating with Jay, finding a time to discuss network architecture and second ISPs. Anything you want to?
We have today was my last dose of Paxlovid, so my illness delayed our previously scheduled meeting, so it's rescheduled for next Monday.
How are you feeling? You feeling going good?
Oh, lousy, but you know.
You don't have long COVID, do you?
Well, that was from 2020. You know, this is round 3 for me. So
yeah, but the reason I ask is there's a YouTuber that I like to watch. She's in her early 30s. She's dying of it right now. It's not a good thing. I mean, I wouldn't just toss it off.
Every infection is compounds.
Wow. Okay. Well, best of luck and best wishes, and thank you for your efforts in working on these architecture review and second ISV discussion. Cloud deployment assess pro 5.0. That's something that I will be working with Jay on, at least the specification. He did share with me the specification document and basically, Windows SQL Server. I can't tell, it does share some resources. I do have more questions. The doc was very vague in terms of whether it supports any sort of clustering or for high availability or active failover, and whether it should, and typically it's highly recommended to decouple the database from the processing server. I can't tell whether it's recommending installing both the application server as well as the database SQL server on the same host. We would not want to do that, especially making use, that way we can make use of native cloud databases. Aurora RDS, it's basically fully managed SQL. They do the upgrades, they do the patching, etc. So all to say is I haven't found time yet, coordinated schedules with Jay to get that, but I will hopefully doing that soon, and we can report back in this meeting. School tech status updates. Joe, do you want to comment there as well?
Yeah, last month we didn't, other Ryan and I didn't get to meet. We do have a meeting set for tomorrow, and I'm keen to follow up on the recurring Wi-Fi issues that have been reported, because we discussed some of the, I don't want to dive too deep into the details here, but we did discuss some admission control issues back in January. But I would be very interested if any members of the committee have specific items that they'd want me to raise to his attention tomorrow. And he had confirmed, but it is possible that events will overtake it. So if so, I will just pursue a follow-up meeting and reschedule.
Yeah, one of my questions is, so they seem to say that are the access or the Wi-Fi problems due to Wi-Fi access points and distribution, or is it due to actually some sort of emission controller limitations? And the reason why I ask is I do have some professional software, and I'd be happy to donate time to create a Wi-Fi heat map of the building. In fact, let me just briefly share my screen because I think heat maps are cool. So this is one thing I created a couple of weeks ago. Basically walked around a building, and basically at a large number of locations, every small red dot is where I tested a signal, and in each of the rooms did a couple of sampling points, and the software tested number of access points, the signal to noise ratio. It also at every location did a download actual connectivity test from a server on the internet to see download speeds. So anyway, I have some software. I'd be happy to take some time and do that around the school to ensure 2.4 and 5G actual coverage.
Yeah, it
If that would
looks
be
very
interesting.
similar to, is that Wi-Fi Explorer?
This is NetSpot.
That spot, yeah.
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 Can you come
And
and do my house?
I'm also
Yeah.
going,
Yeah. Happy
I'm
to do
also,
your house. If you have, it does require the blueprints or plans. So if you actually have the blueprints for each floor, then it's really easy to do. So yeah,
It's cool.
very happy to do it.
and I'm also keen to, oh God. Sorry, brain fart.
Um, are there any other questions for Joe or things to raise on the school network or Wi-Fi? I know that it's been a challenging year for Ryan, um, and part of it is due to all of the, I think, negligence that was done before. In terms of, from my understanding, like lack of upgrades, people were told not to upgrade their laptops because it might break something. So don't apply any patches. Don't up. So yeah. All right. Thank you, Joe, for all of your efforts there. Um, the mobile coverage for covers all the Wi-Fi, the guide that you put together, I think is good. Wonderful, Angela. Excited we're going to distribute that. Is there any other discussion? I think we can probably pull this off of our future agendas.
No, I'll make the updates that Larry suggested, and then we'll print it out to distribute at town meeting. I do still have, I think, an action item to talk with some of the people that are on the specific roads that are impacted and make sure that they get copies of the brochure and then see if they have any other feedback on it. But we'll do that as a next step.
Perfect. Make sure you please save your receipts because we have budget and this is what it's for. So let's make sure we get those reimbursed. So thanks for doing that. Transfer station, electronic permit validation system. So I had another chat with the Bonsai Logic folks, and they shared some more insights about their software and how they work with other public works sites. So their software is they basically have a web-based portal for acquiring variety of permits, inclusive of like a transfer station permit. The towns on the Cape, they do beach permits, shellfish permits, or some, there's some permits that we don't apply to us because fortunately we don't have a beach. But their software also works in conjunction with and includes, and as an available option on the software, point of sale solution for transfer stations. And I found this to be quite interesting because apparently there's many transfer stations in Massachusetts that actively charge for various different individual items, depending on the cost, what it costs them, or basically costs the transfer station itself to dispose of various items like tires and metal. I think our transfer station, we have a metal recycling area. People just put stuff in there. But other transfer station actually charge for certain things. Let me share my screen and I'll share some examples. So the Multi-Logic shared with me some of the fee schedules from other towns in Massachusetts. So this is Barnstable. Okay, that's right. That's how you pronounce it, Barnstable. There's fee schedule for permit, second permit. This is fairly similar. I think it's fairly similar to ours. Disposable household trash without a sticker fee. So you can you can come in and just pay for a one-time pass if you don't want to, pay for an annual permit. So this enables people in town to just come in one time basis, whether they're a passenger vehicle or vans. And the way this works is that the public works folks have a little tablet with Wi-Fi or 3G connectivity, and they just mark the person up, and there's a credit card. They can take a credit card right there and pay for the actual disposal right there. And then other items, bulky items like mattresses, couches, metal doors with glass, metal windows with glass, overcapacity trucks, etc. Charge for recyclables, tires, propane tanks, mixed metals, bulk metal, TV sets, riding mowers, boat trailers. So that's one fee schedule. Here's another one.
Monitors, $5, television stuff. So
Would you send that to me, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, happy to send this in.
this is the pricing from the vendor?
No,
No.
this is the pricing that the town that the town charges their citizens for for transfer stations. So this is like what the transfer station actually charges their citizens if they want to recycle or basically give away a propane tank or give away a monitor.
But
They'll charge
our
their citizens.
transfer station only has a single day per year, I believe, when you can do things like monitors and TV sets and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Basically, our transfer station doesn't have any sort of local point of sale, like to charge people for something. And it's also you get in, via a permit, an annual permit. Whereas this transfer station says you can either have an annual permit, or if you don't have an annual permit, then you can come in for $20 per visit, up to 5 bags.
So do we think by moving to this type of system and allowing a more flexible cost model that they would be able to recycle additional stuff like hazardous waste on a more frequent basis?
I think it can do two things. One, it potentially can allow for certain items to be done on a more frequent basis. I think it also can recoup costs that we are currently paying for, but because we don't have the ability of line item individual, costs like, large like propane tanks or mixed, propane tanks, for example, or metal appliances. Like we don't charge anything for that, but even though I'm sure it costs the transfer station to dispose of those items, so it can recuperate for costs that we're currently paying for.
So this
Private companies charge like $50 to get rid of a monitor. If citizens are paying that amount, this could be quite cost savings, for
this moves our discussion into a different realm, however, and it's a realm that I actually uncomfortable with without including DPW, because this is basically a business model question, not a tech. I mean, we're introducing a potential technical solution here, but the question is, what's the business model? If DPW knows about this, they might look at it and say, fine, but that's not the model we want.
Yeah.
I don't think it's our say what their model should be.
Completely agreed. Yeah, it is technology that enables a business model that we currently don't have, and I think it's a business model we currently have partially because possibly staffing, possibly lack of technology. So I think our role is simply introducing them to this, saying here is a potential option, and I think possibly bring in other, like the select board to see if they have any interest in this as well. In discussing that.
I mean, I think it's cool. I'm not negative on this. I think this is a pretty cool way of doing it. It might be a little bit of an overkill for a transfer station, but if they're not aware of this capability, then us making them aware of this capability might actually make them begin thinking about a business model if there's anybody there who's predisposed to doing that. And it seems to me that the next step is to somehow engage with them.
Yep. completely agreed. So yeah, here's another one, a different town. This is Truro, and they have a lot of per item, charge. And finally, here's an accounting summary of this is actually a report out of the software over the course. I think this was a 1 year in the year of 2022. I don't know what town it was, but over a course of 1 year, the number of transactions in that town, how many mattresses, how many monitors, how much metal, etc., and how much the town recuperated by charging for individual items and so forth. So the numbers can add up. I don't know what we're currently looking at, and we'd have to put the business model together. Can everybody see this accounting trail summary?
No, I'm seeing the Truro fee schedule.
Oh, sorry. I think it's something to do with the Zoom screen share. Apologies. Let me just share this really quickly. So yeah, CRT over the course of 1 year, from January 1st, 2022 to December 2022, how many trash bags, individual trash bags, swap shop access, which happen to be free, no charge for that. Propane tanks, 115 propane tanks. One trip passes, 1,400 one trip passes. Mattresses, demolition. So yeah, it basically can add up, and completely agreed, Larry, that this is sort of going beyond the thing. But I think we should, if it's part of the same software, it should possibly be. We might want to consider it as part of the same discussion to see if this is something we want to. The transfer station, Public Works wants to move towards. I do like the idea of like one-time access, not necessarily having to buy,
Yep.
a full year just in case you want to visit it for a day. So, other questions on that? Basically, the next steps, I think. Apologies. Next steps. When Chief Newell, I had a discussion with Chief Newell about the radios. I mentioned to him that one of his outstanding questions was what other towns are using the license plate reader software, because he has a concern that maybe there might be citizen concern or pushback. And he does receive requests periodically from citizens. Do we have any license plate readers in towns? And up till now, he's been able to, so far, he's been able to say no. So he wants to get feedback from the police departments of those other towns to see what their thoughts are on it. So I'm going to pass on to him these contacts of these other towns so he can reach out to other chiefs and get their feedback. And then I think maybe the next step is to bring in Public Works. I haven't fully been following, and apologies for this. Do we have a new director of Public Works, or are we still searching?
I believe we've found somebody. I don't know if that person has started.
My understanding was we found somebody and then they turned us down after maybe initially accepting. So I'm not sure where we are right now. You may be completely correct though, Larry.
Okay. All right, so we definitely need to evolve in the discussion, and we may need to just wait until the new director is on board and so forth. But so that's all of the updates on that subject. I don't have anything else in the meeting tonight on the agenda. Did I miss anything?
Should we just go down the spreadsheet of old action items and see if there's anything we want to close or add?
Sounds good. Is that something that you could share?
I had it open a minute ago, but I'm not sure where it went. Give me a second. Share my screen. And I haven't updated these in a while, so we might have closed a bunch of them, but we might as well note that. Actually, let's start at the bottom and work up. Okay, this is one that we just talked about, so it's still in progress. I think this one, should we just close this one at this point?
I mean, it's an ongoing project. We could leave it on there until we finish the upgrade, but not a specific action item.
And this
Yeah.
one we did.
Yeah, it's completed.
We had and we can probably close that one.
So this one was an output of the meeting that we had with Iron Mountain
Right.
about being able to automate a lot of the paper storage. And I had a long conversation with Jim Doherty about the process that his group is using. And he does not want to engage with them at this point. He felt that the process that they have now, that they had made a lot of progress. And so I think this one should just be closed. I'm sorry, not, oh, the one above that.
Yeah, I know, I'm just putting it
Okay.
here.
Who's Mr. Doherty?
Jim Hegarty?
Jim Hegarty, sorry.
Okay,
Excuse
I
me,
was
excuse
going to
me.
ask.
Sorry. Past my bedtime.
Yeah.
Both of these had to do with accessibility issues on the website.
You know, we can probably close them because the website's going away. And, you know, the major selling factor for the new website is accessibility. So, you know, that's fine.
The road number 18 is about guidelines for online content accessibility. I think that's more generic. I could be wrong.
Okay, let's leave
But-
that one open then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because our hope is with the new website, people come. It is more accessible, and people come back to it, and committees don't spin up their own websites. But you know that the library isn't going to be joining the town website anytime soon. Neither is the rec department. So I think having a guide that they can all follow is still useful.
Survey Monkey.
Yes, suppose Jay has a budget. We haven't yet upgraded it. I need to. That's on me to follow through with Jay to upgrade the account.
Last update to this was exactly 1 year ago. No, actually, it was put on exactly 1 year ago. I should be putting these at the top. So. Should we just close it?
Let's wait until it's actually upgraded. So it's in progress. Yeah.
Okay. Selection of second internet provider, that's still in progress, right?
Still in progress. I don't know if it's worth noting that you know, it seems to be zeroing in on Comcast.
I can certainly add that as a note. So that
that was the update from the last couple of rounds of conversations.
Okay, and this is also in progress from what I've heard.
Correct.
Does this go with the previous one?
Yeah, same thing.
SCADA security. Is this still an issue that is on the table?
I don't think this is on the table anymore. I think most of the ARPA funds have been allocated, and from what Jay told us, he said that basically security for several of the like the water system, etc., is run by the water district. It's not run by the town, so it's not under our purveyance.
A senior center.
You said that that was being handled by the high school, didn't you, Matt?
This was providing system person. I know I was looking into the high school. The high school is doing it for Northborough Senior Center. They haven't yet done it for our senior center, but I do know that our library has run. I think our library has run several of these sessions, and possibly leveraging. So I need to follow up on this. It's been a year. It's time to follow up. So
Okay. And this one is in progress now, right?
In progress. Yep.
This I don't think we need to talk about at this point.
Yeah. Keep in mind for this next year.
Status of the .gov domain. That came and went, but that's a pretty important topic. Yeah, honestly, it would be nice if we could introduce this at the same time we were introducing the new website.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was logging into one of the federal government websites yesterday, and you know, there was this thing. How do you know you're really at a federal government website? Look at the .gov domain at the end.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I don't think
it's partially a security issue, right? I mean, it's
yeah.
easy to anybody can do a .com.
Yeah, so there hasn't been any motion on this, but this seems like it's something that we ought to sort of bring up again.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, I like that.
I was supposed to do something here, and I think this information is on the website already, but let me look again and see if I have a good list of who's up for reappointment and things like that, because we haven't been keeping track of that, and it fell off of my list.
I did my reinstatement. Somebody from the town clerk's office contacted me, and I had to go in and do some, you know, acclimation.
Yeah, I had to do that also, but I can't remember whether it was this past.
Are we talking about conflict of interest?
No, that's actually something that I haven't done yet, and they keep bugging me about it, but I need to do that.
Oh my God,
That's the
you're going to
ethics
prison
training.
there, dude.
Well, you know, the problem was that I got the email and I ignored it because it just said conflict of interest. And I said, I did that already 2 years ago. I didn't know I had to do it again. And, you know, when she finally said, you know, you need it by March 1st, it was like February 28th. And I was leaving for vacation on March 1st. And I didn't get back until this past Thursday. So I just haven't done it yet, but I will.
It's actually not as bad as it used to be. They upgraded it, and it's certainly not as boring and horrible as it used to be.
Oh, that's good to know. I have something to look forward to.
Who knows? You might decide that you actually are conflicted, and you know, this could be a very soul-searching emotion.
I really doubt it. Have we closed up issues with myseniorcenter.com? We had a discussion a couple of meetings ago, I think, on this, or last meeting.
Yeah, I did do the research, and it's fine. There weren't any big security issues, but I think I just still need to do the write-up to document all of it. I gotta go back through my notes and document.
And
It's still open. I need
that's still open.
good reminder. Yeah, I need to follow up on that.
And enable live broadcast on SAM from the library.
That's still open. Yeah, I've talked to I talked to Ryan Donovan, and right at the moment I don't have any resolution on that.
Okay.
Okay.
I didn't talk to the young Ryan though.
He might have a different answer for you.
He might. I mean, that guy's woof.
All right. Thank you, Larry, for going through that. Before we close, let's take a look at our calendars, if that's okay, for an April MTC meeting.
Okay, so I'm going to be away. Yeah, I might not be able to make the next meeting depending on what it is. I'm away the week of the 10th and the week of the 17th. So,
Where are you headed?
the week of the 10th, I'll actually be in the Canary Islands. We're joining some set of our kids for vacation there. And then the week of the 17th, I actually have a conference in Rome. So we'll be going from the Canary Islands to Rome for that week.
Do me a favor when you're in the Canary Islands, go to the top of the mountain and jump up and down and see if you can get that landslide, that catastrophic landslide going.
Well,
the one that's going to wipe out the entire East
something
Coast.
Real, Will.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, I don't know.
We are going to the top of the mountain, though. So
are you going to go visit the telescope there? They've got a bitching telescope in the Canary Islands. I don't know which island it's on, though.
Oh, interesting.
No, we're not going to go to the top. It's too hard to buy a cable car ticket.
So in any case, if you need to have it in one of those weeks, somebody else will have to take minutes.
How about the 25th?
My piano's getting tuned, but other than that, it's fine.
Who's tuning your piano, by the way? 25th is fine with me. No, I'm serious. I've got one that needs some tuning.
I'll send you an email with a name and a contact.
It's not Yankee, is it? Okay. Yeah, it'd be
Do we
great.
know if there's a select board meeting that night?
We don't. How accurate is the town calendar? March. Meetings.
Don't see
March.
anything on the calendar yet.
Yeah. There's
It
no.
works for me. It would just be nice to not conflict with the select board meeting.
Yeah. Seems like the select board is almost every Tuesday at 6:30. Is that right? You said March. In March it has been. Maybe that's just running up to town meeting. And in February, it was not. It was the first and fourth Tuesdays. What are people's thoughts on that? I'm typically busy on Tuesdays and Wednesdays and Thursdays. Would a Monday be better?
Monday would be fine with me.
Not the 24th.
Not the 24th.
Let's go ahead and do the 25th, and then can look at changing it as we go forward if they seem to always be conflicting with them.
Yeah, how about, well, I could do Wednesday, the 26th. What are people's
That's
schedule
fine
like?
with me.
That's fine with me.
That work for you, Angela?
Yes.
Wednesday, the 26th. Okay. Let's target Wednesday, the 26th, from 7 to 9. All right. Thank you, everyone. I move that we adjourn. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, let's go around the room for that. Joe,
Yes.
Barry,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Angela,
Yes.
and likewise, yes. Thank you, everyone. It was a great discussion, and hopefully we'll see some of you at town meeting.
Yep.
Sounds good. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.